my channel, Purposeful Play, where I talk about all things early childhood education. I'm Danielle, and today I'm going to talk to you about insects. Someone had requested if I could share some ideas on an insect study, so here I am. Let's get started. A couple of things to think about before you start the insect study. One thing is start collecting materials, so books. I like to go to the public library, so I get on the public library website and start reserving or putting them on hold so that they all come in and I just go up and pick them up. Go in and pick them up. If you work in public school, they often will have someone like a library media tech that they will help you with that. So, see where you can find some books without having to purchase them. I do have some of my favorites that are ones that I own, but I often just borrow because it's just expensive. So you start collecting books. And then I like to spend some time learning about what the children are interested in. What do they already know about insects? What are their I wonder questions? What are they wondering about? And making note of that, because that will it will guide you in what you're going to be teaching, what you're going to be learning about, what you're going to be exploring with the children. Let families know that you're going to be learning about insects. Ask them what materials they have at home that you might be able to borrow, and have them start looking for photos that they have. Maybe they could print off the internet that their children are interested in, take photos of the insects that are around their homes. And I also ask family members if they are experts, if they know anything about insects. A couple of years ago, I had my husband's cousin. He is a beekeeper, and so he Zoomed with us because he actually he lives in Ontario, Southern Ontario in Canada. But he was our bee expert. So ask around. You never know. Maybe there's a family member that is very interested in insects, or they have a job that has something to do with insects, or maybe they just want to talk to the class about insects. Most likely, one of the questions or one of the things that the children are going to be wondering about are, how do insects change? So I would get on the internet and order up some insects. I have done caterpillars. They have been actually the most successful. I usually get them off of insectlore.com. I will put a link down below. I've always had some great success with that. I have done ladybugs before. They were okay. They change. They go through that life cycle, but they're not as their change is not as drastic and as exciting as the caterpillar. So that might be my suggestion. And then another thing is I like to make a list of all of those vocabulary words that we might be learning about throughout that study. So I make a list of them. If I need to, I can print off photos, sort of go along with those, the words, and then also the photos, kind of connecting those together. So I make sure that I have all of those listed and ready to go. Once you've discovered what the children are wondering about with insects, then you can really start planning specifically what your weeks will look like. I would not suggest spending just 1 week doing insects because I feel like there is just so much to learn. I know I mentioned before about the bee expert that we had, and we spent a good 2 weeks at least just learning about bees and wasps, because we had some wasps on our playground and they were just very interested in the wasp. The children, meaning they were interested in the wasps. So, make sure that you have enough time to spend studying this topic. Some of the questions that you might get are, it's the witching hour at the Burley house. Crosby, the dog, thinks that he needs my attention right now. So some of the questions that might come up and the children would be interested in exploring are, what do insects eat? How do insects change? how do insects move, what do insects look like, and how do insects communicate. So what I did based on those questions, those possible questions, is I just jotted down some notes here of things that I have done that help children answer those questions. So remember what the materials that you're putting out, the, learning opportunities, learning experiences, the songs, the small groups, the books that you're reading, everything should go to answer and help answer those questions that they have. So what I'll do is I'll just, maybe I'll tell you some ideas for interest areas, a couple of small group ideas, some large group and movement ideas, and I think that's it. That's what I'm going to talk about. So for discovery, super easy for discovery. You want to have bugs. You want to have real live bugs and bug catchers, magnifying glasses. If you've ordered those caterpillars, you want to have those there. I like to have journals for each child so that they can be writing their discoveries down in their journals. Pictures of the life cycle of insects and different kinds of insects. Or you can also buy those, they're like plastic bugs, the different stages of the life cycle of different insects. So those you can also buy. If you can find some insect homes, that would be really great. Some hives. What other insect homes are there? I don't know why I can't think of anymore. Some insect homes. And then of course, any photographs that you have, whether they're ones that you print out or ones that the families take when they're together and they can send those in to you. So I think that discovery is really an easy thing to do because you're really just asking children to bring the insects in. I do teach the children that we're not going to keep the insects forever because I think that that's an important thing to teach children, is that we don't want to be harming the insects. So keeping them, until it's time to let them go at the end of the day. Dramatic play, I feel like dramatic play can be whatever. If you notice that the children really want to keep having it as like a home, then keep it like that. You don't have to strip it all and try to somehow really not successfully connect it to insects. I have had dramatic play as a garden area. So we've had, I had this big bucket that I used that was a fairy garden. So I had all the pieces of the fairy garden and some insects in there, flowers, butterfly costumes, straws, so that the children could pretend that they were using their proboscis to sip the nectar from the flowers. So that's one idea that I've done. And for blocks, you'll continue to have out your regular blocks, the unit blocks. I like to put insects in there, little fake insects. If you can find ones that look real, that would be great. I think that's a great idea if you can find them. I also like to put in parts of trees. So whether it's like branches or limbs, twigs, tree cookies, those slices, a cross section of a tree, flowers, leaves, fake flowers. And then children can start building the homes for insects in blocks. Also having, kind of maybe some fabric, paper, scissors, those kinds of things, so they can actually be cutting and creating those homes for insects in there as well. In the library, so in that reading, writing area, I would include a felt story for retelling The Very Hungry Caterpillar. I'm sure there are other ones too, but I know that that's one of the ones that I have. And I just took felt and cut it out and glued it together, and that's how I made my felt story. In the writing area, I like to have books or journals that the children can write or draw in, so having them create their own insect books. I've also included step-by-step, very simple ways to draw insects so the children can, if they want to, follow that, those steps and adding those insects to their journals or their books. Having pictures and the words that go along with the pictures, so those vocabulary words that you're teaching the children available, whether they're hanging on a word wall or available in like a ring, a binder ring, and the kids can flip through those and add those to their books. Yeah, those are my ideas for the library. And of course, a huge variety of books about insects. There are so many out there. I will put some of my favorites in a list down below. I'm not going to link them, but I will just put the book, the title of the book and the author for you. Toys and games. So toys and games ideas. I love loose parts. So little tiny gems and rocks and shells. And I'm trying to think of other things, flowers, twigs, anything that you can think of, bottle caps, milk tops, straws, all kinds of stuff. And then letting children create, if they want to, I kind of demonstrate or model it myself a few times when I'm playing with them, creating insects. So they have to know about the body parts of the insects, so their segments, the number of legs, their antenna, those kinds of things, so they can create their own bugs using loose parts. Of course, games, those cooperative games, puzzles, those kinds of things that are always included in toys and games, but also maybe some tweezers and some fake bugs, and maybe the children can be sorting them. Is this an insect or is this not an insect? Maybe a sorting tray so that they can be maybe counting as they're putting them into that sorting tray. And then Play-Doh and loose parts with the Play-Doh, so the children can use the Play-Doh to mold and create their own insects. One of the things I have put in sensory before, and I've done it a couple times, is I've gone to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever and bought a strip, just a little square of sod, and put that in there. And I put, fake insects in there as well, tweezers. I'm trying to see if I wrote that down, the other things that I would include in there. Tweezers, magnifying glasses, scissors, because I didn't think I would include scissors, but children wanted to cut the grass. And so one of them decided to do scissors, so that the next time I did it, I included scissors. Buckets, insect containers, catchers, and you would be surprised at how many insects are actually living in that sod. I didn't know that. I think I brought it into so the children could create a little fairy garden in there with some insects and little furniture and things like that. But it turns out that there were actually a lot of real live insects in there, and that was quite exciting. So rather inexpensive, but a lot of fun. Okay, lots of art ideas. And again, I'm thinking about art ideas. I like process art. So we're talking about, how they create it, not what that end product is going to look like. But I also wanted to help answer the questions. Maybe, those questions that I had sort of suggested at the beginning of this video, see if you can figure out which question these art ideas are answering. So shapes, cutting out shapes out of construction paper, colored paper, scrapbooking paper, whatever, and having pieces of them for the children to cut, googly eyes, some white paper and glue so they can make their own insects out of the colored paper. Depending on how great their cutting skills are, you can have some shapes already cut out for them, or you can put out shape tracers and have them trace and then cut out, or just pieces of paper and they can cut out their own shapes is great too. But again, they're trying to think about what are the parts of the insects. I've put out bug stamps and ink pads in a variety of colors. So I actually have, rubber stamps that have bugs on them. I've also had ones that are the life cycle of I think I had, maybe I just had the caterpillar. I probably only had the caterpillar. Those would be great at discovery as well, but they also could be put at art. Doing butterfly symmetry. So having a butterfly, the shape of a butterfly, whether it's cut out already or not, showing the children how you can paint on one side and then they squish it together and see how it is symmetrical. So again, it's vocabulary. Another one to help with the parts of an insect are some printmaking. So having any kinds of materials, it could be potatoes, it could be erasers, it could be blocks, it could be anything. And just having the children can stamp into the paint, and if they want to, they can make the body parts of an insect. I like to have materials out so children can make headbands. And they can, put the headband and then they can add antenna or legs. You know, I don't often make a sample of one, but sometimes when I'm sitting down there with children and there's materials out, I might make one for myself, and then children want to make something that they can wear too. And then those can also be added to dramatic play to sort of extend that imaginative play. Having a lot of recycled materials, or I call it junk, they can use it to create insect homes. They can use it to create, you know, three-dimensional insects. Really, they can use it to create whatever they want, but those are just some ideas for that. Another thing to think about are patterns, because there are a lot of insects that have patterns. I'm just thinking of bees and wasps and how they have that black and yellow pattern. So, you know, having paint available out for children, or whether it's markers, pastels, anything, and then talking about patterns that they see on insects. So also having books and photographs so that they can look at that and really have that conversation and exploration with patterns. Carle is an amazing artist, so you might want to talk to the children about and teach them about that, what is he called? Art process. You can Google it if you want to, but he uses tissue paper and paint, and it's a lot of fun. So maybe that's something you might want to do. I've done it in the past where children have created the parts of the story, the very hungry caterpillar. So, you know, some of them created the butterfly, and some of them created the foods that he eats every day, or the leaf, or the egg. And we would eventually get all of the parts of the story, and then as a celebration at the end of the study, we put on a retelling of the story for families. So they came in and we could retell the very hungry caterpillar using those beautiful pieces of art that we made. I wish I had taken pictures of these things, but I didn't. So you'll just have to imagine what it would look like. Having rocks to paint, I know that would not really help with insect body parts, because you only have one rock, but I guess they could actually draw the segments onto the rock. And then I've taken 2 rocks that they've painted if they want to make multiple rocks, and then make a game out of tic-tac-toe out of their painted rocks. It's just a fun activity to do. I get my rocks from our cottage that's in Southern Ontario, and they're really nice and smooth and very easy to paint. And I have the children use acrylic paints, well covered clothing, but acrylic paints tend to really stay on the rocks better. So those are just some art ideas. If you Google insect art ideas, you will find a whole ton of them. But just keeping in mind, again, I guess this is just my opinion, that you're not thinking about that cookie cutter end product. It's just, hey, here's some materials, here's some things that you might want to create. If they don't create, you know, anything that has to do with insects, that's okay, they don't have to. A couple of ideas for small groups. You can do observational drawings of insects. So as you are going out on your bug hunts or insect hunts, bring those in, and during small groups, have a look at them and really talk about what they see, and you're modeling that drawing of what you see on the insects that you're observing. You could do a rhyming with bug, so making a big long list of all the words they can think of that rhyme with bug charade, so that'll help answer that question, how do insects move? So children can pretend to be a kind of insect, and then everybody else has to guess what it is. You could even do that one with cards where they could look at it and then they would have to act it out. Clap the syllables of different insect types, and have those vocabulary words and photos available for children to look at too. So they're making that connection of the syllables and the word and the letters and the insects and all of that. Playing a game of I'm thinking of. So giving clues about what you're thinking about. So you would have to, children would have to really use descriptive words about what their insect will look like, or how it moves, or what it eats, or where it lives. Again, encouraging them to use a lot of those vocabulary words. I really liked this one we did last year, actually, of I'm bringing home my baby bumblebee. So singing that one, we sing that one a lot, you know, with transitions or large group. those kinds of things, but not transitions, when we were waiting during routines and things like that. But having the children create a new version of that. So maybe it's, I'm bringing home my lovely little ladybug. I actually think that was one that we made up last year. So they're thinking about that alliteration. You're modeling how you're gonna write that song out on chart paper or strips of paper. And that's a fun one to sing later on all together. That would actually be a good one too if you're going to have families come in for a celebration. That's one that you could perform for families, different versions of the Baby Bumblebee song. And then because one of the questions that has come up in the past about how do insects communicate, I taught children some of the ways to sign. So using sign language for different kinds of insects. So that was a lot of fun to learn about that. And then it ended up learning some letters of the alphabet. So I had a poster of it, and they were learning how to sign the letters in their name. So that kind of led to something else with that small group activity. That was really fun. And again, I know I keep saying this, but all of your activities do not have to center around your study topic. If you can't make it connect, don't stretch it and don't fake it. So if there are other things you want to be talking about during small groups, maybe there's a social emotional lesson that you need to do. Maybe there is a read aloud that you want to be doing during small groups. So do what you need to do during those small group times. Those are just a couple of ideas that I'm sharing with you. Large group time, of course, that's when you're going to be having those discussions about, what those vocabulary words are. Maybe you'll be exploring some of the materials that you're going to be putting out. So a large group is like that. You could also do some bug yoga or insect yoga. So your body shapes are going into the ways that maybe those insects would be moving. A couple of other movement song ones, ladybug, ladybug, turn around, ladybug, ladybug, touch the ground. You know that one? That's kind of like teddy bear, teddy bear. You can sing the body parts song, and I'm going to sing it for you. Usually it takes me a couple of tries because for some reason, every time I first start to sing it, if I haven't sung it in a long time, I can't remember the song. It's to head and shoulders, knees and toes. But I don't know why. Sometimes I can't get it right. So if I sing it wrong, you can sing it on your own. So head and thorax, abdomen, 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 head and thorax, abdomen. Do, 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 do. Head and thorax, abdomen, abdomen, head and thorax. 2 antenna, 6 wiggly legs, head and thorax, abdomen, abdomen. I have sung this in my head, not on the camera, a million times, and I can't remember how it goes. It's head and thorax, abdomen, head and thorax, abdomen, 2 antenna, 6 wiggly legs, head and thorax, abdomen, 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 head and thorax, abdomen, 2 antenna, 6 wiggly legs, head and thorax, abdomen, abdomen, or something like that. I'll see if I can find a video and I'll link it down below. I don't know why I can't figure out what the tune of it is, but you get the idea. Well, I think that's all. I hope that I've given you a few good ideas. And if you want to share your ideas for the insect study, you can put them down below. And I appreciate if you give this a thumbs up and subscribe so you can catch my other videos, and have a happy day.